Hello, everyone, and welcome to the African American Theater Podcast, The Beat, Black Experiences in Art and Theater. My name is Sydney Edwards, and today I have two very special guests with me. They are starring in the U of L Theater Arts production Split Second by Dennis McIntyre. It's the very first show of our 21-22 season, and I am the director. I'm going to let my guests introduce themselves.
What's going on, everybody? My name is Lamar Hardy. I am a third-year graduate student at University of Louisville African American Theater Program, and I am portraying the role of Val Johnson.
Hey, it's Brandy Lachey. I'm also a third year, and I am portraying the role of Aaliyah, Val's wife. I'm actually the only female in this place on top of that, so hey.
Yes, it's a big task, isn't it?
Yes.
I'm going to get you to talk about that in just a second. And we have been on quite a journey. We open the show tomorrow night.
Yes, open tonight.
It's just crazy. And we've been at this since, August 20th. So 14th? So a month and a week about. Okay. And what a journey. So I'll just give a little synopsis of the play, all right? So this play, Split Second, by Dennis McIntyre, is set in 1984. And what makes this play a really interesting choice for the AATP is that it was actually written by a white man. Dennis McIntyre is a white playwright. If you do a little research, though, you do a little bit of digging, it was actually commissioned by a black man. Dennis McIntyre's friend wanted a play written that he could perform in, and so this play was born. So the rights belong to a black guy. But in the play, there's a police officer named Val. Say hey, Val.
Hey.
And it's about a July 4th night where Val just happens to run into the wrong guy. And you know what? I'm going to let you take it off. Nobody can tell the story like the actor. Just give us a little bit of synopsis.
Bet, cool. So, as Sydney just said, it's July 4th, 1984. Val Johnson is on a patrol this certain night, and he runs into a white man named William H. Willis. Yes, William H. Willis. What a name, right? And he is in the process of committing grand theft auto. And Val ends up running him down a couple blocks. He arrests him, and William H. Willis continues to basically give Val racist slurs, provoking him to do something wrong, and then Val shoots him. And then after he shoots him, he takes off the handcuffs, and he plants a knife that he found in Willis' pocket and his wallet. He basically fixed the whole thing. So Val has to figure out if he wants to tell the truth or just leave it the way it was.
Yeah, so the whole rest of the story is about Val and the people in his life dealing with the consequences of this action and deciding, is he going to come clean or is he going to let it ride? Yep. His wife is a huge part of that decision-making process. Brandy, tell me a little bit about your role in the play and what it's like to be the only female member in the cast.
Well, I'll start with the second question first.
Okay.
I think it's really a great experience to be the only female in the cast. And I can even say that just by being in a dressing room by myself. But no, it is a great responsibility. And one thing that the playwright did do, which I still have to do my research on, is pretty accurate. It's a weighty depiction of what a lot of females go through, and even then what women go through to keep their household together. It definitely tackles a lot of things. And at the subtext of this story to me is a love story at the end of the day. What is Aaliyah really willing to go through and willing to take on to keep her family together? And so that's what my character is going through. She hears this story. She has unconditional support for him, and she still goes through his emotional and psychological obstacles that he's bringing in and out of the household. She has to still deal with that as well. And so the play uncovers how she navigates that, even then when she unravels emotionally within herself. How does she put herself back together so she can be there for her husband? And so that is Aaliyah, and it's very complex, and I enjoy playing the role. I really do.
I think it's a complex show.
For sure.
Can you tell me a little bit about your preparation for this role? It's definitely a heavy drama. What do you guys do to prepare for a role like this?
Yeah. Well, I ain't mentioned this before, so this is my thesis performance.
Yes,
so.
2 thesis actors
Two
in the
thesis
house.
performances. Yeah, so before the rehearsal process started, I did some research on what a life is for a black police officer in 1984. So it's this book that's called Black Cop. It talks about cops in Manhattan, where the play is set, and also My Grandmother Hands, that talks about the black trauma that is still in our bodies since from slavery. And then I applied that to Val of what he's dealing with his childhood trauma and how he's controlled from his white society, how he can't be what he really wants to be. And then through all that, I just basically implemented the physicality of what it is from every scene that he's in and his whole character arc. So we just see Val from when he first shoots Willis, and then what is it in at the end, if he tells the truth or if he doesn't tell the truth. So all those type of layers I implement.
Let me ask you a question, because My Grandmother's Hands seems to be a really good resource. I have to dig into it still really myself, and I know that it's available as an ebook on the university's library page. Can you tell me who wrote it? Who's the author? Do you remember?
I can't really tell you.
Okay.
I got it on my head.
Yeah, but I know it's a good one. I'll put it in the notes for the episode.
Yes.
All right, I'm gonna swing it over to Brandy. Tell me about your prep work.
Yeah. It does start with a lot of research, but at a certain point, you have to just disconnect from that research and allow it to fill you up, right? So my research was not specifically on the Black experience, not at first. It was more so of a woman's experience, a married woman's experience, because I think starting my process with a general consensus of what women go through can definitely allow me to touch more people and whatever else they deal with within their marital households, and specifically heterosexual households. I do want to clear that up as well. But just starting with what is the role of a cop wife, and the biggest thing that I've found in my research is listening. And a lot of that is still taking on the anxieties and all of that. Like how are you coping? How are you releasing? What are you doing when your husband is not around? What are you doing when he is around? How much of yourself do you put to the side? So it's all of these different ideas of just being in a relationship together, all together, that fueled my preparation.
Awesome. And then me as a director, I got to do my preparation too, right? So I read the script several times, and I rely not only on the resources I find that tell me about the time and place of the script, but I rely heavily on the research that different members of the production team do. Like costumes is going to do very specific research about hair and makeup and styles in the 80s. Sound is going to do specific research about the music, and sets is going to do specific research too. One of the things I'd like to highlight, I feel like we made a really interesting choice when it came to sound. The sound is designed by Jerome Willis, who's a faculty member here, and we kind of subverted expectations. So this play is written by a white guy, but if you read it a lot, you can tell that it's written by a white guy. Some of the language can be stiff.
No color in the
There's
language.
no color in the language. And I feel like the easy thing to do would have been to, okay, well, let's just add hip hop to this play. Hip hop was popping in the 80s. It's great, but I feel like the words and the vibe of the script didn't lend themselves toward hip hop. I don't know if you felt that way, but I couldn't see it. I couldn't see it. So instead, we went with a more of a guitar theme, kind of cop TV show eerie theme, because the very specific notes in the script are that the music is eerie and haunting, and I was like, by itself, that's not enough. So we added a little bit of edge with guitar, and people would say, that's not really Black, but you know what? American music, all great American music was born of the blues and rock and roll, which is born of Black culture. So it's still us, even though people wouldn't on the surface connect that kind of sound with Black culture.
Definitely.
So that's just a little bit of my research and my thoughts.
And you know what I asked? And just to add to that, the way the script is written by Dennis is, like you said, it doesn't really have, I guess, some of the characteristics or some of the language of a Black male or woman. So it took a lot of me going to the rehearsal room and just playing
Yeah.
Because I know I got to know, like, oh, you got to add some human sounds. Because if you just read it as is, it is no really human sounds. It's just really straightforward. So,
yeah.
And then, sorry, go ahead.
No, good, no, because I feel like when you have a black playwright, if you have an August Wilson or something, they the way that it's written is in there because it's a shorthand that we understand culturally.
Yeah, exactly. And then a little bit what Brandon was saying about how you got to disconnect from the research, because it's like if you stay on it too long, it's like, man, it's going to be real flat. So it's coming with an open mindset.
I experienced that as well when I was working on my thesis. My thesis was actually about self-executed dramaturgy, how actors do their own research and let it fuel their performance. And there's a place in there where I talk about, okay, we have all of this and we have to let it go. It's important to know but it's always, everything you do is going to be informed by it. Yeah. And the thought that, people say, oh, this isn't a black play because it was written by a white playwright, but just the sheer fact that black bodies are on the stage, right, telling stories about black people is a black play.
And look also what it's centered around. I'll just say this, if you're born in America, you're born in white supremacy, and look where it's centered around. White supremacists of Willis and even before that, when Val had his trauma before and how Val was also in the Vietnam War, it's all about centered about whiteness. So it's like, even if you see that, who are we oppressed by? So it still technically could be a black play, even though it's not written by someone who's black, which I agree with.
Yeah. How do you all feel, and Brandon, this might be a good one for you to chime in, like, how do you feel like this play is relevant to what's happening today, particularly, here in Louisville, Kentucky, where we're still dealing with the repercussions of the murder of Breonna Taylor more than a year later and not having justice for that? It's definitely, we've flipped the script with this play, but I feel like there's still relevancies. What are your thoughts on that?
So I have two main thoughts that stay in my mind throughout this entire process. The first thought is how external circumstances really influence internal circumstances. So things that are meant to be private or things that are meant to be intimate or sacred, how the external political system still influence, if not damage, those structures that you already have within yourself. And I look at that with Breonna Taylor, again, an external circumstance influencing someone who is within the privacy and the intimacy of their own home. That happens with a lot of injustices that take place altogether, going back to being in a part of a system of oppression. The other thought that I continue to have is the idea of flipping the script. This script, literally flipping the script, but the script twists your mind completely. If you are a black person reading this script, you are now questioning your morals, because you would want a police officer to go to jail for something that they've done just out of the idea of just
it's wrong.
Yeah.
Humanity.
Yeah. It's just like this overexertion of power. Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. When someone just really just forces all that power that they have over you, you would want someone to go to jail. You would want that justice. But then when you flip the script and you're looking at this black guy, it's so crazy that you're now questioning, should he go to jail? Should he not? He should stay with his wife. What is he thinking? And that was my thought reading the script at first. But then I put myself in the times of today. Did we ever think about the wives of any of the police officers that were indicted or that we were pushing to lose their jobs or anything like that? We didn't think about their households. And that's just, again, adding the humanity to what's happening now, all together, all around. Who does it affect? So yeah.
There are a lot of people on the surface who look at particularly the first scene of this play, right? Where the incident really happens, and they will say, that guy was mouthing off, and he said this and he said that. I would have shot him too. There are people that would say that. Yeah. Until they probably think a little bit deeper about what they just said, and really digging into, again, the humanity of it. The humanity.
One thing that I love about the script, with several different characters, I think it's 5-6 characters altogether. Every person touches at some point. They touch on how they're trying to support someone else. Even with William H. Willis, like he's trying to support himself and make a living. The indicting officer, Parker, Val, Rusty did things for himself to support others. Everyone at some point in time turned on a survival mechanism. And that's one thing that I do enjoy about this script.
Yes. So briefly, let me just touch on those other characters because they're really important to this story. It's essentially like a series of two-person scenes. Like Val goes through all of these scenes with all these people, but not only does he have these conversations with his wife, Aaliyah, played by Brandy Lachey, but he also has conversations with his father, whose name is Rusty, played by Saeed Kelly, and his best friend Parker, played by Nick Willis, who is a first-year graduate student, his commanding officer, Parker, played by Talib Hardy, and that's mostly it. I think that's it.
Instead of the best friend being Parker Charlie.
I said it backwards.
You said Parker twice.
You know what?
It's okay.
I'm just a director.
That's all right.
Nick's
I didn't
last
want to
name is
I'm
Willis.
just a director.
Yeah. It's okay.
His best friend Charlie, who not ironically, but also served in the Vietnam War, so they had that connection going on. What are some of your favorite scenes in this play, or favorite moments?
Oh man, favorite scenes.
Hardest hitting.
The opening, because really it's funny because Brandy was saying this. It's like, well, why can't a black person lose control? That was a whole thing during this whole process, especially that was on my mind about when you was giving some notes about, oh yeah, lose control of this moment. I'm like, well, I've been taught to be a certain way, so doing it now, it's like, oh, like it's mind blowing. But the first scene, the opening where Val shoots William H. Willis, because it's kind of like you can tell that sense of he doesn't really want to do it, but he acts upon it, and like what happens after that. The scene with Val and Aaliyah, when Val kind of tells the truth to Aaliyah about what happened.
He always
Val is a liar.
half telling the truth. That's what killed me about this play at first. I was like, this man lying.
I think men do that even when they not under. Let me stop.
Nah, go ahead and be your truth. I was going to roll with it.
I hear you.
Wow, I'm the only one here that can't defend myself. But it's okay. The scene with Val and Leah, when he talks with his father, and then the bench scene when he meets with Charlie in the last one, when Val really lets it all out and he just tells his truth. And that's another thing too, is about the control that Val has been under this whole life, and how he's trying to have self-control too. Now, what does that look like now, from when he shoots William H. Willis to the end? Like, does he still have it? Is that still there with him? Is he okay that he lost it? All these things that I like about the play.
What's some of your favorite moments, Brandy?
Some of my favorite moments. I'd like to say my first scene is one of my favorite moments.
It's a good one.
Yeah, that's a solid scene, because that scene right there has more layers than I think any of them, because Aaliyah doesn't know at that time. So you see some sense of normalcy, some idea of what their relationship would look like, and then that unravels in the middle of the scene, and it turns into an argument. It turns into Val revealing the truth. It turns into heavy information. So that scene right there has a lot of twists and turns, and that's typically how an argument would explode. Like all of a sudden it's a nice day, and then you're getting bad news, and then the news gets worse, and so that's my favorite part.
Awesome. All right, I'll have one last question for you. We'll wrap up, but this is U of L Theater Arts Department's first in-person show since the pandemic hit, so super kudos on that. But what's it like coming back to live theater?
It's different. It is different. It's just different, the structure of it, the precautions, acting with a mask, it's all different. And we have to, just as an actor, we have to definitely emphasize other parts of our body so we can communicate the message a lot more clearer, because we lose our face, and it's different, but I do prefer this, and I'm glad to be back.
And to add on what Brandy was saying about different, it's like the power of how the opposition makes you stronger. How, because now you have to supplement, or now you have to show more for rather than what it was when we were normal, and then what it is now with the masks and everything else. Like how you have to be so, not want to say so-specific, but you have to really be cautious of how you approaching the work in a certain way. Like it's only so loose you can be because of how stricter we are, but it still adds to the growth and the training that we're doing. But I love it. I love being back. I'm excited.
Good. Me too. I feel like adaptation is the name of the game for us as
sure.
actors. It always has been, but woo, is this a big one?
Yeah.
We are using clear masks for this show, which has been a journey and an adjustment. It's
all 5 of them.
Still adjusting in this opening night tomorrow. But I have faith. We're going to be okay. We're going to be okay.
Yes.
Guys, I just want to say thank you so much for joining me today and have a happy opening night.
Happy opening.
Happy
yes.
opening.
Yes. This has been...
And congratulations to you. This is your first show directed here at the University of Louisville. In
person. Number 2.
We did a devised piece last semester.
Yes.
Hashtag Sydney was the amazing director over there. But yes, we have an actual script. We're actually in person. And Sydney, this is her first show with that. So congratulations to you.
Thank you. Also, go watch Hashtag on YouTube, y'all. It's probably right next to this button, I promise. This has been the African American Theater Podcast, The Beat, Black Experiences in Art and Theater. Thank you so much.